Good evening. Welcome to May 20th, 2024 West Clermont regular business meeting. I do believe Mr. Chumley is walking in the building as we speak, so he'll be in shortly. He just sent me a message and said he's parking, so do we want to wait for roll or do you want to go and take roll?
We can take roll and I'll get him when he comes in.
Okay.
That'd be good. All right, Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
And Mr. Chumley's on his way.
So at this point, there is a reason to go into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, license, or student, and to consider the confidential information related to the marketing plan, specific business strategies, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal finance statements of an applicant for economic development assistance or to negotiate other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance. So I will put that in the form of a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Sanborn?
Ms. Sanborn?
Is there any discussion? Okay,
They noted that Mr. Chumley arrived.
Mr. Chumley's here, thank you.
So, Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
And Mr. Chumley, we're voting to go into executive session for the purposes as read.
Yes.
5 yes.
February 20th, 2024 regular business meeting out of executive session. Mr. Romano, will you take roll, please?
Mr. Pat,
Here.
Mr. Rudy,
Here.
Mr. Chumley,
Here.
Ms. Sanborn,
Here.
Mrs. Spencer,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. At this point, will we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance. Moving to the agenda, there is I will put out in the form of a motion to adopt the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there any discussion? Thank you. Mr. Romano?
Mr. Pat.
Yes.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn,
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. I believe the next will be our Volunteer of the Year recognition. Turning it over to
Good
Mr.
meeting, yes, thank
Mr.
you.
Gephardt.
Thank you for signing those as we go through this. This is always packed house tonight, which is great because every year we know that our school buildings, our principals, our staff can't do it alone. And without the volunteers and without people stepping forward, taking care of all the things that need to be done, we wouldn't get it done. It's kind of like the principal without a secretary. You know who runs the building is going to be the secretary. We also know that the volunteers are what help us get to where we want to be. We want to be a district on the rise, and it's you that we build relationships with. It's you that we want you to be in our buildings for all the innovative things that we do. It's centered around our students, and we want to empower you to help us as we move forward. And we've had great success this year academically. We've had great success throughout the year with a lot of different awards that we've had as a district, and we really are moving that needle in a positive direction. We couldn't do it without the volunteers that we have in the buildings, and I can tell you, they're so appreciative. We know we're going to say a little bit about each one tonight, and then we'll do a short reception afterwards, but on behalf of the board and all of us, we want to thank you for all that you do for the district. We can use your help in the future as well, because we have a lot of things that we'll be moving forward with. We have a lot of things that our board will be considering as we look at our facilities, as we look at our enrollment, we look at our aging buildings as we move forward. And so we're going to need all the help that we can get, so that every student gets the same opportunity at West Clermont. But thank you for all that you've done. And I think we'll start different. We'll start with the high school first.
It's usually last.
Well, you know, heck with Amelia, right? We'll start with the high school first.
Right. So I'm recognizing actually two people because we're so big. And they're actually from our band boosters. So Lori, if you could come up here. Is Keith here? Yeah. Oh, there you go. Come on up. I want to say a little something about both of them. Our band boosters, they're like the team behind the team. They're like our pit crew, and I see Lori here all the time. Keith's driving our many different trailers around. So I had Brian say something about each of you, and it said, Keith Brown's receiving Volunteer of the Year for his tireless effort behind the scenes, helping make the student experience wonderful. Keith led a team to create and design, build our props last year, which include the electronic switches and lights to bring the theme of Switch to life. He also drove the trailers, fixed anything that was broken, and jumped in anytime something was needed. And Lori's receiving the Volunteer of the Year for her work to create seamless communication to our huge parent network through emails and our social media accounts. She shows up to countless events, and they both do. Her students, that her students aren't even in, to take pictures and hone our public image. Lori also organized our Tag Day, where the band solicited our community for donations, and over the past 2 years, Tag Day has raised over $25,000 for our band. So they're a really driven and organized parent organization, and it's because of people like Lori and Keith that our band is so strong. So I want to thank you guys so much, and thank you for all the work you do.
like to recognize, good evening. I'm Kevin Jones, a principal from Willowville Elementary. And it's my pleasure to recognize Teresa Johns, if you'd like to come forward, Teresa. Teresa is the president of our PTO. And I didn't really understand all that encompassed and the type of, really, how big that job was until I came to Willowville and got to see them in action, the PTO. And to see what Teresa and her team do each and every day, it makes Willowville the strong community that it is. I mean, imagine we raised over $45,000 during our walkathon. Was it 45 or 48? $48,000 for the walkathon, and they put on the school carnival, which attracted around 2,000 people attended the school carnival. I mean, the logistics, the marketing. She's a graphic designer by trade, and so the things that she's creating for our events, you know, I think is second to none. And so the amount of time that she spends, and the amount of coordinating, and I always, with my secretary at school, talk about how the work continues on the weekends, in the evenings. They're meeting at each other's homes. I mean, Teresa's gathering the PTO together, and it's not only just to fulfill these events that we have planned. Like, it's something that she really cares about. Is important to her. She knows that her work is going to impact the opportunities for our students and create the school experience that we want at Willowville and throughout the district. And so I'm really in debt to all your work and time that you put into making Willowville the place that it is. And so I really appreciate you. And so Teresa is our volunteer of the year.
I guess.
Good evening. I am the proud principal at WT Elementary. Get my glasses. It is a privilege this evening to recognize Mrs. Becky Curtis. If you could come up. Ms. Curtis has a second grader and a fifth grader at WT, and a senior who ran our snowy truck today, correct?
Correct, and an eighth grader.
And an eighth grader, so we have all the family. This school year, she has spent time each Tuesday morning in Mrs. Bottom's second grade classroom. She has served over 40+ hours working with students individually and in small groups on literacy skills such as fluency and comprehension. She has supported the holiday party and by organizing a game, and just today spent all day, since we're all sunburned, at field day. In the words of Mrs. Bottoms, who is also here this evening, the students love to read with her, and she helps them feel successful. Becky has been a pleasure to work with this year, and my students have been lucky to have her in their lives. Ms. Curtis, on the behalf of WT Community, thank you for your dedication and support, and congratulations for being our volunteer of the year. Right now, let's go.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Tracy Ray from West Clermont Middle School. Another district right now. We're thrilled to honor Laura Ard. Laura is our WCMS Volunteer of the Year for 23-24. This is her 7th year serving our district. She was the PTSO president at Summerside for 4, and this is her 3rd year at West Clermont Middle School. She exemplifies dedication and leadership and has served WCMS in a lot of different ways. Her commitment to supporting staff and students is unparalleled. Under her leadership, we have been able to enhance teacher support through initiatives such as getting supplies for our students and staff, and as well as helping us with breakfast, numerous conference night dinners, teacher appreciation snacks, coffees, lunches, and the list goes on and on. These efforts have significantly boosted staff morale and created a positive environment. environment for our staff and students. Moreover, the PTSO, under Laura's guidance, has maximized every dollar through membership, fundraising, and t-shirt sales. This funding has been pivotal in providing classroom and school supplies for innovation and learning. Our students have greatly appreciated Laura's leadership through various engaging events like skate nights, dances, and field days. We'll all be sunburned tomorrow, so. Additionally, contributions to our character program, our Way of the Wolf breakfasts have been instrumental in promoting positive values among our students. Mrs. Ard has led our PTSO with collaboration, tireless efforts, and unwavering reliability. Her remarkable contributions have enriched the lives of our staff and students. It is with great pleasure that we express our thanks and gratitude for Laura for her invaluable service and dedication. Congratulations.
Randy, we're gonna mess up your order.
We really don't have
I'm Erin Parker, I'm the principal at Merwin Elementary, and unfortunately our volunteer of the year couldn't make it. She had a family obligation, but we wanted to recognize Ashley Collier as our volunteer of the year from Merwin. And Ashley has been a library volunteer since last year. Her daughter's now in first grade, so when her daughter first came to Merwin, she really wanted to be invested. And so if you're not familiar with the elementary library program, we run our libraries really a lot on our volunteers. They work with our library coordinator to make sure that they are helping people check out books, reshelving books, checking books out, all the things that happen in a library can't happen without our volunteers. And Ashley has just been so consistent. She's there every week, every Wednesday. She stays for half a day to do that. And that's really hard as a mom with little still at home. And she's been so committed for 2 years for that. So we really wanted to recognize her this evening. So I'll make sure we were able to recognize her at our Merwin volunteer breakfast. And so I was able to recognize her there, but I'll make sure she gets this. And we're so thankful for Ashley.
Good evening. I am the proud principal of Summerside Elementary, and I'd like to invite our Volunteer of the Year Award recipient, Mrs. Lynn Baird, on up to join me, please. It's my honor to recognize Mrs. Baird as our Volunteer of the Year, and really I should say volunteer for the last 7 years. She's done an outstanding job. She has an outgoing 5th grader from Summerside and a graduating senior this year from the West Clermont High School. Mrs. Baird and I met 7 years ago when she was picking up her then kindergartner at Brantner Elementary, and saw that we were having some traffic control concerns, right? And the one thing that I've always admired and loved about Lynn is that when she sees a concern, she brings a solution. And the first thing she asked and called me to do was, can I come observe? Can I just come be part of the team? Can I put my shoes in the teachers and staff shoes to understand what's going on? And then she gave perspective and problem-solving solutions. And ever since then, every year, she has come back and been our safety patrol. She has supported our staff and our students and our parents in making sure that we know the flow and that we're all doing what's well and right as we get used to the new year transition. And so I've already invited her back as a 6th grade parent to Summerside next year as we welcome preschool, and she's already said that she might be willing to give me some perspective. I also want to just acknowledge too what Mrs. Parker was just sharing. Mrs. Baird brings her expertise as a Clermont County Public Library employee. She comes and supports and volunteers in our library at Summerside and has through the years and given us countless hours. She's also the kind of person that just quietly comes in with a great perspective and big ideas that are able to be implemented in small, simple ways. And whenever I need somebody or need something or need a perspective to continue to guide, Lynn shows up, and we make a really great team, and I'm going to miss her greatly at Summerside, but I also know that the district is better for you. So we're really thankful for you and thankful for all you've shared and done. So thanks for letting us honor you tonight.
Hello, good evening. I'm Josh Young, the principal at Holly Hill Elementary. Our volunteer of the year is Miss Marty Atchison. She's a retired West Clermont teacher, spent years and years and years at Holly Hill serving the students there, and apparently couldn't get enough over decades and decades. Currently, she's out of the state visiting family. Some mention of a new grandbaby possibly was floating around, so we give her something. She primarily helps in our third grade. I was talking to third grade teachers, and they just mentioned like any need, academic need, or just a support need for students that they would have had, even like a tough Monday, if they had a rough morning at home or getting to school. She was a quiet servant, but had a big presence. So we'd see her, she'd pull part of a desk out, or a desk out in the hallway, and she'd have a small group going with 3 or 4 kids. They would do basic phonics work and do all kinds of different things, you know, they should work on their writing. So Marty's awesome. She works her tail off. She's there for hours and hours and hours, and I can definitely say for third grade especially, that she's had an impact on their learning in their group. So I'm going to pass this on to her, and we can take a photo of Jeffrey and we'll Photoshop her in.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Thacker, the principal at Cleft Pike. The Burgess family, you might stand just real quick, everybody. I've been fortunate to have them within our school community for several years. And it started with Grandma Debbie, who volunteered, and she was at school every single morning, volunteering the traffic. I understand doing traffic duty so much. And she just came in every day, volunteered in the morning, came in the afternoon, and still did it. And finally I said, listen, why don't you just, like, wait a minute, why don't you just become part of the staff? Like, we might as well pay you. You're here, you love it. So with Grandma Debbie then came to me and said, hey, Kelsey's other grandmother would love to volunteer. I said, get her in. And so it's Teresa Burgess. Teresa, come on up. And I said, absolutely. And since that time, Teresa's been in our library helping out kids and shelving books and helping out Santa's work. Anything that there's an opportunity to be involved, she's at. We appreciate all that effort, and kids are certainly surrounded by wonderful grandparents and models of what it means to give back. So we appreciate the whole family team. And thank you very much.
Amelia's last, is that right?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jared Olson, Dean of Students at Amelia. Principal Short apologizes he couldn't be here tonight. He's actually helping out with our kindergarten recognition tonight, so we kind of split duties. But that gives me the privilege of announcing our Volunteer of the Year. And I get to announce not one, but 4. A group of people. We have Lacey Young here, our PTA president, so why don't you come on up. Our volunteers of the year are our Amelia PTA. So Lacey, along with the PTA, we just want to thank her for all the countless hours that her and her other people as part of the PTA board members have put into our school this year. I can't say that a day goes by that one of them is not in the building, checking on teachers, checking in the office, seeing what we need, and putting on all the events that they have put on this year. Whether that be the trunk or treat, the mother-son event, the father-daughter dance, the walk-a-thon, where you guys raised $24,000 for that. Which goes a long way with helping our kids succeed and getting some supplies and things like that for the beginning of the year, and kiddos that come in the middle of the year that maybe need some of that stuff. So I have trouble finding something that they can't find, and I've asked for some things for our kiddos, and to lo and behold, they find it somewhere. So it is amazing work that these folks do, and we definitely could not provide the experience that we provide our kiddos without their help. So. Congratulations, Lacey and the Amelia PTA.
With all the things that everyone shared this evening, I know there are many things that went unmentioned, things that you guys are doing behind the scenes. We could never capture all that you do to support West Clermont in the meetings, in the special occasions, and we are just truly grateful for you. On behalf of the Board of Education, I want to thank you and also invite you to our reception that we have outside. But I have I have 2 favors to ask before we do that. And you can decide which one you want to do. First favor is this. We have another group of parents in this room tonight. They are the Citizens Advisory Commission. And they're going to be presenting to the Board of Education in just a few minutes their vision for the future of West Clermont. And it is amazing to have this room filled with people And if you could be so kind, if you have a little bit of time to give this evening, just to stick around to hear their voice of what they studied and researched and what they want to bring forward to change the experience of West Clermont kids, I would love for you to be a part of it. So that's the first favor. The second favor is Mr. Gephardt is going to be sending out a survey during the busiest week of our lives, the last week of school. And it's all about our transportation. It's all about facilities. And we really want to get as many people involved as possible. And you are the movers and shakers in school. And if anything that you could do to help us get the word out, to share it in your networks, to share it in your social media, we want to make sure everybody's voice is heard in West Clermont, and you guys play a big role. So I won't take attendance. I won't be upset if you leave. But if you wouldn't mind getting some cookies and treats and then joining us just for the Citizens Advisory Commission report, we would be forever grateful. So again, thank you, and enjoy these last few days. And hopefully we'll see many of you at graduation on Friday. Thanks. We're going to take a little recess.
Take a little recess. We're gonna go out and have some refreshments. I know you're used to giving them, but we're gonna give them to you guys this time. So you guys go out and enjoy.
This is the Citizens Advisory Commission, who has been working really since August, every single month, at least 2 hours. And we always say, can we have 5 more minutes? And it usually ends up being like a lot more. And have worked very hard to research a topic from the board. Their topic was school purpose and design. We've been spending a lot of time in town halls thinking about if schools are changing and we are expecting more than reading and writing and arithmetic to happen in a school, how does the design of school and what we do, how does it look different? And so they've been researching, they've been listening to presentations, reading, studying, listening to all of our teams come and share their information with them. And through a lot of hard work and extra efforts, they now have a report to compile and to set the course for the direction of our school district. This is a vision that's at least to 2030, and it's a bold, ambitious vision that I'm just very impressed with all of the work. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the CAC to begin. And again, thank you all for hanging out with us.
Hello, I'm Susanna Bachman. I'm the chairperson of the CAC. So we are pleased to present our findings and general recommendations on school purpose and design to the West Clermont Board of Education. The CAC has met monthly since August on this assignment. In that time, we have invited leaders from the district's impact teams and other experts to make presentations and engage in discussions to help us better understand our current realities, achievements to date, and the purpose and design of a modern education system. We have evaluated published research, white papers, and recommendations from individuals and organizations focusing on the future of pre-K to 12 education. We have also reviewed data and feedback from district stakeholders involved in numerous community engagement activities, including surveys, polls, focus groups, and town hall meetings. In this report, we have been guided by these 5 questions. 1, do our suggestions or recommendations align with the Board of Education's aspirational statements? 2, what success and achievements have we already witnessed in our district that show incremental progress toward the Board of Education's aspirations? 3, what additional programs or strategies could be implemented that will help our school district become a more modern learning environment where every student has pathways to lead to their future success? 4, is there evidence that our district stakeholders desire or will support a specific recommendation? And 5, what are the potential risks or consequences of not implementing a recommendation? We believe the majority of stakeholders in the West Clermont School District can wholeheartedly support the vision of a modern school district where every student in the district has access to pathways, programs, and support that make them future ready. We also believe it is crucial to consider the risks and long-term effects of not taking action, and we have tried to include our thoughts on this in the report as well.
Hi, I'm John Kiefer, a proud father of a 5th grader, soon to be 6th grader, from Amelia Elementary. And a part of the report was looking at the current realities. Before you know where you want to go, and the target here is 2030, you need to know where you are before you start the journey. And as was previously stated, there's a lot of current data that's been presented. I won't read all of it, you can read it, but I think there's a couple key things that came out of the current data is that the factory model of education is obsolete. Roughly 88% mostly or strongly agreed with that statement. The second one that I would point out that I think is really important is the factory model, I'm sorry, I said that twice, is that 99% that mostly or strongly agreed with, there we go, with this part. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. So almost 99% of the people that voted felt that the factory model was obsolete and felt that we needed to have a pathway forward. You can see from the data here, which don't need to go through and read, but there was a key point of data that was mentioned at our last meeting that I was looking to be up here, but it talked about some of the picture of a graduate and some character traits. And although the community, when surveyed, didn't realize that that was taking place already in the district, when you ask them about specific characteristics, well over 50, 60, 70, 80% felt those were things that they wanted for their children.
well, that's a good segue, because Tricia's gonna talk about that.
Yeah. I'm Tricia Moore. I'm a teacher in the district, and I'm vice chair of CAC. The Portrait of the Graduate, or POG, has been the guiding North Star for West Clermont schools since 2020. When West Clermont stakeholders, the parents, the grandparents, and the caregivers were surveyed, over 73% of them said they were unfamiliar or not very familiar with the Portrait of a Graduate. But, however, when we broke the Portrait of a Graduate down into specific durable skills, resiliency, adaptivity, character, integrity, communication, collaboration, academic and life skills, innovation and creative thinking, 90% believe they were extremely important to develop in students. Yet the perception of these stakeholders is that these skills are not being adequately developed or applied in West Clermont schools. This perception could be for a number of different reasons, including different understanding of each skill. After conversations with community partners and business leaders, we learned that they believe that the POG skills are critical for career and life success. But if you look at the importance of the skill versus proficiency, you see a discrepancy. Businesses feel communication, teamwork, and critical thinking are of a 99% importance. Proficiency upon graduation is only 55% for communication, 78% for teamwork, and 66% for critical thinking. Specifically looking at critical thinking skills, 95% of Americans think it's important, but in contrast, only 85% of Americans feel that it is lacking in the general public. All of this data just reinforces our belief that our focus is correct. POG skills are needed and important for success in life.
So the question now is, what is our actual recommendation to the committee? If you move to the next slide, you'll see that we're talking about the big picture here and not the nitty-gritty, because for us, we wanted to give an outline of what needs to be done and kind of let you guys figure out how to make that happen. But the whole point is that every West Clermont student should graduate with a meaningful employment or post-secondary opportunity. That's like a given. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that we focused on 3 Ps, which are pathways and performance for the first, people for the second, and place for the third. So pathways and performance means that every student should have access to both the curriculum and a support system. And that is how those foundational skills that we're hoping they get will be able to transfer into the real world. Secondly, people. So our students need to have access to people that are educators, that are community partners, that are family, that will allow them to feel part of the community and have that emotional support that will help them thrive later. And then third, we need to make sure that the place that they're learning has both the resources and the safety that is required to make them feel both welcome and that the education is available through those resources. Does that make sense? So we can't be like outdated.
So one of the first things to look at is a student-centered, deeper learning environment. And when prioritizing elements of a student-centered learning environment that provides students with opportunities for deeper learning experiences, there are several elements to consider, as you can see here. As a CAC, we prioritize 3 different facets, as you can see by the numbers. The first one being a modernized curriculum, which would include STEM opportunities for students, specials, as well as electives at the middle school level, and electives and selectives at the high school level. And in terms of the specials at the elementary level, having a more robust and regular schedule of those. The second one would be strong literacy and core foundational program. I know course of study focus groups have focused on this, and they'll have an increased focus on using both literacy and math skills to support building content knowledge across all content areas, because those provide a good foundation for all. And the third is experiences beyond the classroom, and we have opportunities like career-based learning, internships, and other areas for student involvement. And as we've discussed, the factory model of the educational system is obsolete at this point, and the data collected from district stakeholders indicates an understanding of the need for modernization. However, historically, the educational system has always been and will continue to be one of the most stable elements interwoven into society as a whole, which can make transformational changes seem scary. Prioritizing these facets allows the district to maintain the strong foundational core curriculum of education while making incremental changes to shift to a more student-centered learning experience. In order for students to fully develop the essential skills needed beyond high school, they must be engaged in the learning process. Providing them with a modern curriculum, autonomy and learning modalities, and creating experiences for learning beyond the classroom grants them the ability to truly take ownership of their learning and naturally integrates the skills emphasized in our portrait of a graduate. If we ignore the need for this shift, our students will be the ones unprepared and left behind in a job market that will only continue to become more competitive. A lack of engagement in the learning process will also have a negative impact on behavioral and mental health, which I think we all understand has a ripple effect, not only within the school district, but also the community at large. This is a process that will require a progression of technological tools as well, and without them, our students will be even further behind than their peers coming from districts who have embraced this educational evolution. As a committee, we understand the road to achieve this is not going to be easy. It's going to have a lot of obstacles, and so what we would like is to encourage the Board of Education and district leadership to involve our community partners and increase their participation in support of this innovative, outside-the-box thinking needed to benefit our students and our community as a whole.
All right, so there are 4 sections in the report. We're just highlighting the one section tonight in our presentation to you. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the way that the report was laid out. So the next section covers some of the data. So in order to guide our work, surveys and focus groups were created. Surveys were created and focus groups were held, and the stakeholders of our district shared information about what was important for them to see as far as student learning experience was concerned. So as the data was collected and analyzed, it was presented to the CAC and the district leadership, which provided further insight for us as to the direction that our community wants us to go in the planning process. So these pieces of data are included within the presentation and within our report to support our recommendations. So,
Do you want me to keep going? There's a couple more down to risks. Do you want me to go that far?
no, not quite that far.
Right there?
I'm on 20.
Oh,
So
sorry.
some of the perception data indicated that as a district, that changes need to be made in our programming and course experiences and offerings. And it was also indicated that many families served within our district were not quite sure about what the current course offerings were, as far as specials go with the elementary school, the encores at the middle school, and the electives at the high school levels. On the next slide, 21. So the data also indicated that there was support for making changes to our current schedules, learning paths, and pacing of student work that would help make students more well-rounded and better prepared for life after high school. And then on 22. The data is compelling that our community feels strongly about providing students with real-world learning opportunities. And then 24. So these pieces of data are included within this presentation and within our report to support our recommendations. And with the insights provided by the data gathered, and with the information that we've heard from the different stakeholders during our collaboration times, we strongly believe that working toward these recommendations will provide our students with the best and most student-centered learning opportunities that we as a district can give them. And then you talked a little bit.
Yeah, I talked about the risks already, but just to, I guess recap, if we don't keep up with neighboring districts, I mean, our students are gonna be left behind in a world that's gonna just continue to become more competitive. And so we wanna make sure we equip them with those skills that, our North Star, the portrait of a graduate illustrates, so that they can keep up and succeed in the future after high school.
You have to pardon me.
for just a moment. So we talked about student-centered deeper learning, and the slide that I kind of missed earlier had said that there were 4 sections so we can meet those 3 Ps. And students, of course, would be part of that, but then we also talked about modern learning environments, creating a modern educator workforce, and developing modern partnerships. So that those last 3 envelop our place and the people that we provide for our students. So as you can see up here, modern communications, one of the things that we found is that with technology advancing and with all of the onslaught of information that's coming both at parents, at teachers, at educators, at community members, a lot of stuff can get lost. So a plan needs to be put in place on how to meet the needs of all of those stakeholders in a way that they can easily access the information so that they can be part of the plan. Unfortunately, what we've noted here in the risk is that if you don't manage the communication well, what's gonna happen is that social media will do it for you. So I don't know if you have been on social media lately, but it's not usually that great. And so to maintain this image of the rising district that we are, we need to kind of be ahead of that. So this section is just kind of a nudge towards making sure that we're staying up to date on all the forms of communication and how students will be receiving that information so that we're the first line that they see and they're not getting it somewhere else and then they only get to us if they decide to do their research. The second section, the next slide says modern community engagement. That means in order for any of the plan to work, for any of our goals and aspirations for our kids, we can't just do it with our teachers and our students. We have to do it with our community. So you'll see a lot of numbers for you that will be broken up into your actual presentation that you have in front of you. But you'll see that I can't read any of that.
Yeah, it's translated really strangely, but there are real numbers in there for you.
There are real numbers in there, yeah. So the point is that there are voices in our community, there are groups in our community, and those same voices and groups are represented in our school district, which means that you need to reach out beyond the walls of the building to make sure that you're engaging those groups and making them feel welcome so that they bring in the resources that our community has rather than just the resources that our district and our government can give us. And that brings us to this vision at the end. If you need something a little bigger, you might have it in front of you right here. Oh, looks like you touched my finger. Okay. So it is part of my job here today to just walk you through this presentation, walk you through this visual that was created. I would like to point out that Susanna, sitting over here, did create this visual for us in all of her talent. Based on some information that we had talked about during all of our classes. So I want to say, first of all, my name's Heidi, which I haven't introduced myself yet, but I'm Heidi and I moved to the West Clermont School District a little over a year ago, actually. I was really curious when I first got here about the education that would be offered to my children. So I have 2 girls, Nin and Cece, that are in 2nd and 4th grade. And I talked to my neighbors when we moved in about West Clermont because I was nervous. And I'll be honest with you guys, it wasn't great news. I did not get a lot of great feedback, and that is because a lot of parents didn't feel welcome and a lot of students felt overwhelmed. However, once my girls did enroll, I could see that the district was actively making changes to keep up with the modern world, which for someone like me who really likes to advance, that's a big deal. So I want to share with you this modern student journey because it's a pathway that's designed to make a revolutionary education experience for the kids here, specifically at West Clermont. The core of this student journey, as you can see, is this yellow path, which symbolizes a core educational trajectory, meaning getting from kindergarten or preschool all the way to the end. However, we need to acknowledge that that will not be the only way that our kids can succeed. The whole, the blue line there, as you see underneath, is representing the whole learner network, and the red line is WC Your Future, which builds upon their journey. So if you picture this, from the moment your child steps into kindergarten, they'll be immersed in a world of possibilities. They'll have purposeful play and exposure to various career choices right at the beginning. That will hopefully nurture their natural curiosity and their love for learning. And then our teachers will be able to create an environment that encourages exploration and sets the stage for this mindset of the future. As your students grow, they'll focus on building strong foundational skills on this journey, like reading and math. Even if our goals are ambitious, they will be achievable. So for example, having all children all students, I guess, reading proficiently by 3rd grade. You can't quite see it, but it is on there in the 1 to 3. Or maybe completing Algebra 1 as early as 8th grade, which is below the national standard, but if they make it there, then they're already ahead of the curve. How do you do this? So the difference between how it has been done in the past, where you saw all those kids sitting at desks, and how it's being done in the future, is by implementing personalized learning plans. And then we need to have new teaching methods that cater to students' unique style and learning abilities. And this may ruffle some feathers, but I will tell you that it's already being done. So I'll get into that in a moment, but I want to point out that the Whole Learner Network on here, in case you are not aware of the Whole Learner Network, it will hopefully address the basic needs of your students, because the goal of that network is to form partnerships that will remove any barriers to learning. Currently, a lot of students have basic needs that need to be met, and teachers' time and faculty's time, staff's time, community's time is being spent meeting those basic needs, which means that they don't have time to do what they're there for, which is mentor and teach and guide. So we need to partner with organizations like Child Focus, which we already are partnered with, and expand those partnerships to ensure that the students have access to behavioral, mental, and actual basic needs. We obviously shouldn't stop there. So we believe that learning happens everywhere, not just within the 4 walls of a classroom. That's why our recommendation is that you offer project-based learning and experiential opportunities, which allow students to apply knowledge to real-world situations. And I'll take a moment and pause there and tell you that's how it works. So if you've been on a job interview recently, you are given a real-world situation and you have to solve it in front of everybody, and that's how you get the job. It is not a one-on-one conversation anymore. And it's starting that way for us as adults who are like absolutely gobsmacked by it and like confused. But our kids need to be prepared for that, which is happening now. The benefit of these project-based and experiential activities is that they, 1, learn to collaborate with their peers, 2, develop critical thinking skills, and 3, will be able to learn at a young age how to solve problems creatively, which will help them as they grow. And this obviously starts from the beginning. So I've just gone through elementary school, guys. As our students enter middle school, we'll start preparing them for challenges of high school and beyond. So this is where they should be introduced to the variety of learning methods that are out there, including online, blended, experiential that I just commented on, said. By exposing them to all these approaches, you will empower them to take ownership of their own educational plan and make informed decisions about what their learning preferences are, so that by the time they reach high school, there's an endless sea of possibilities for them. We should be able to offer them apprenticeships through community partners that we've built through our networks. We should be able to offer them career-focused courses, individualized classes. Our students should be able to explore their own passions, but also develop practical skills. They should be able to gain insights into career paths. The WC Your Future Path represents the commitment to preparing these students for the real world. As we mentioned at the beginning, we're not a factory churning out graduates with a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, we need to focus on, and this is something that the team said, I didn't say this, developing courageously curious and engaged critical thinkers who possess transferable skills. We are already seeing the positive impact of our vocational tailored programs. For example, our high school students have the opportunity to participate in internship programs and specialized fields like IT, which I didn't know until I went to the high school, and some kid was showing me how to fix a computer and really excited about it because he was in a class for that. These experiences provide students with valuable real-world skills and exposure to potential career paths. They need the tools to thrive in any future endeavor, which includes design thinking and deeper learning experiences, which the ladies just went through. I'm almost done. As students progress along the journey that you see in front of you to become actively involved in shaping their own pathway, we should be empowering them to explore their skills and interests and blurring the lines between traditional end goals. Success stories should be the norm for West Clermont. Throughout this journey, be reminded that we want to prioritize individualized support and guidance. We want to say goodbye to things like traditional report cards and hello to comprehensive portfolios. These reviews will showcase students' progress and achievements, and our teachers will work hand in hand with students and families to ensure that each learner has resources and support they need to thrive. As a parent, I can't wait to see the impact of a modern student journey on my daughters, Cece and Nin. I know that they will benefit from the innovative approaches to both learning and personalized attention. Plus, the diverse experiences will prepare them for success in a smaller and smaller world. By embracing these transformational changes, West Clermont is positioning itself as a leader in education. We're creating a learning environment that is engaging, inclusive, and responsive to the needs of each student. And our commitment should always be to innovation, collaboration, and individualized support, which honestly will set us apart and make us the premier choice for families in the area.
Before we move on to the conclusion, I just wanted to open up for the group, if there's anything that you want to share. I know there's different parts of this journey that speak to you guys differently, and I know, Brenda, you haven't been able to say anything yet, so I just wanted to open that up before you do that.
Everybody's doing such a great job. It's hard to add into that. I think we've looked at this a lot, and it might be the first time you're seeing this, so please take time to follow and understand that there's a reason that this is flowing along. It's not traditional in the sense that you do this in first grade, you do this in second grade, you do this in third grade. We really want to make this an experience for students. I know we have some benchmarks as far as reading skills and maybe the algebra by 8th grade, but it's really wanting to expose students to experiences that are going to make them more productive in life, but it doesn't pigeonhole them in. So when they're in 9th grade, they don't decide, do I want to take an engineering class, and then that's all they can do. That's not what we're saying here. So I hope that you can take time to really look at this and get that feel when you're able to look at it. You did a great job, though.
You guys have anything?
I think this also speaks to something I've heard Natasha say several times, and I don't get tired of hearing her say this, is, I mean, we're truly preparing students for jobs that we don't even know what they are. They don't exist yet. And you can't do that with a traditional education model anymore. And so you need these experiences because that's what teaches them to problem solve. That's what teaches them how to function in the world, how to communicate and collaborate. And, not to say it's ever since COVID, but it is a reality that there's gaps in a lot of those skills, And so, I mean, I feel like this truly speaks to that and opens a lot of doors for students that we don't even know where those doors lead to yet.
I think one of the things that excites me about this is that it's giving us the opportunity to excite students and make them love learning, and hopefully that will help them to want to become lifelong learners. I know, the job that I have now is not the job that I went to school for. I didn't know when I was 19 that I was going to change careers, but that is what has happened. But I think that it's important for people to enjoy learning so that when they do come upon that stumble or that opportunity, that they can pass over it successfully. And that's what we're trying to encompass with this.
I think the one thing that we haven't spoken to is, I know there were several times I struggled with, okay, how do we get the kids to buy in? And then I went to the Leader in Me program, and that was the piece that was missing. Because those skills that are taught through Franklin Covey in the Leader in Me program are the skills that the kids need to be able to be successful in this type of model.
Right, we can't just magically,
Yeah, they have
by
to,
osmosis,
yeah, right.
figure this out.
It has to be taught somehow.
John, any words before the concluding statements?
Yeah, a couple things. I think the beauty of the process is, although Natasha and her team might have set the end goal of 2030 in that vision, which is her job to do, but the beauty in here is that you have community partners, parents, teachers, working together to accomplish that goal. It's not Natasha saying, here's where we need to go, here's how you get there. It's really, here's where we want to be, how can we get there? And I would say that this report, it's not the end all, it's not the conclusion. It really is just the closing of one chapter as we open up the next chapter on this journey.
And this won't surprise anybody here, because I'm very data oriented, that West Clermont is already implementing new technologies and trying to keep up with what kids are already used to seeing. There's programs called iReady, which individualize learning for students. There is things happening. I mean, our kids did something called March Mathmas at Summerside, and it made like math cool. And I always thought math was cool, but I was in the minority. So I think sometimes we forget that there are people have set ideas about certain things like learning, and that's just an idea. Kids can enjoy everything and anything, and if we tailor it to what they're already used to seeing and the technology they're already used to interacting with, it just becomes part of their life. It doesn't become this chore that they have to do to fill their brain with stuff. It becomes skills that we're giving them that help them deal with stuff.
Tracy, anything else? You don't have to say anything, but if you want to.
I'm just really thankful that as a district, we are so forward thinking about the kind of education that we can provide our kids, and that we're, always trying to be one step ahead and thinking about, we're preparing them for jobs that don't exist yet. So I'm just really thankful to be a part of the process and get to see where this goes.
So board members, do you guys have any questions for them? They've been involved, as I said, in a very intense, fast-paced process since August. And I know they've shared a lot. I know you've been able to review the report, but it's still, I don't know, 80-some pages. It's a lot to take in. Is there anything you guys want to say to them or ask them before we completely wrap up this part?
Well, I've had the pleasure to sit alongside these breakdowns. I'm glad that we have people who can dig their hands in and have kids in the district and can be involved in all this. And it's really cool seeing so many different backgrounds come together surrounding what's most important, our students. So it's just been really cool to see this process, and I thank each and every one of you for dedicating your time towards it.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo. I've attended some of the meetings and sat in on them, and you guys have really put a lot of effort into this, and I've really taken the time to be thorough, and I do appreciate what you guys have done with this.
Well, likewise, we thank you for taking time to hear us and giving us the opportunity to do this. And it is a long report, but we hope that you'll be able to take time to really look at what we presented there.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Well, and with that, I want to thank Ellie Preston. She was kind of the leader of this group this round and worked very hard every week to gather the information, prepare our team to share data and information with you. And I know we prepared some concluding words, so you want to keep going with that? Okay.
Okay. Hopefully you all understand that throughout all our recommendations, there was a focus on skills.
It's also important that we convey that with whichever path we take, be in the best interest of our students.
We simply want to be the catalyst to move kids on the trajectory they need to succeed.
But in fact, it's not just what they need, but what they deserve. We need to be really intentional and willing to transform as things change in our society.
Because West Clermont is not just a district of schools, it's a representation of our community, and our plan requires participation from both.
This work truly illustrates that we are a district on the rise and ensures we can continue to be one in the years to come.
And John jumped ahead again, but this report is not the conclusion. It's just the next step on the journey.
There's the mic.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, drop the mic. That's all.
Oh, I forgot, yes. I'm supposed to do that.
Thank you guys very much, and thank you, audience, for sticking around to hear this message. We'll be picking up more with a strategic plan a little bit later, but we truly appreciate your time and your effort and your big dreams for the future of this district, so thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have the CAC come up. We'll
Yeah,
step
Jeff
outside
is
here
going
and
to
take
take,
a real
thanks
quick
everybody
picture.
in the peanut gallery, we appreciate it.
Again, thank you everybody for sticking around and listening to that. Yeah, thank you guys for the presentation. So again, we're going to kind of move things around just a little bit here. So we're going to go and jump into the consent agenda. And first is our personnel agenda. Looks like Mr. Foltz.
Ready to roll.
Good evening, everyone. In front of you is the personnel agenda. for May 20th, 2024. On the agenda today, we have the resignation of one elementary assistant principal, 4 teachers, 1 school psychologist, 6 paraprofessional aides, and 1 cafeteria worker. This agenda also includes the proposed hiring of 1 public information officer, 1 executive assistant to the superintendent, 1 school psychologist, 10 teachers, 1 health clinic assistant, and 2 paraprofessional aides. And again, this is the time of the year where we bring forward all certified, classified, and administrative staff for contract renewal at their respective levels. So you will also find on this agenda the proposed approval for moving 15 teachers from a limited contract to a continuing contract. We also have the proposed approval for administrative placement on the 24-25 salary schedule, the exempt staff placement on the 24-25 salary schedule, classified contract renewals for 24-25 salary schedule following a 1-year or 2-year contract renewal, limited contract renewal for certified teachers, part-time paraprofessional office assistants contract renewals on the 24-25 salary schedule. We also have the proposed approval of extended days that allows our support staff to close the year and begin the next school year, and also support any summer work that's needed to be supported. You'll see on this agenda the proposed approval for supplemental contracts for home tutors, elementary yearbook advisor, building leadership team members, and multiple coaches. Included is also the proposed approval for multiple unpaid leaves of absences, multiple school volunteers, and student teachers for next school year. We also have the request to change approved FTEs by reducing a cafe worker 0.44 at Amelia and adding a 0.5 school psychologist. You also see included on this agenda the notification of teacher substitute pay. So the daily rate of $125 and the long-term sub rate of $178.50 is the same as it was this past year. We're carrying that forward to next year. But we're also adding an additional incentive for our West Clermont retiree teachers. If they come back and sub with us, they'll get a daily rate of $150. So we're hoping that all of our retirees want to come back and spend some time again with us. And so that's a little incentive for that. Finally, beyond the work beyond the contract session are the proposed approval for payments for cooperating teachers, ETR and IEP writing, specialized program development, and additional department support. So this concludes the review of the personnel agenda submission for your consideration.
Thank you. Looks like next, is that still you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. So when we finalized negotiations back on the December 11th board meeting, we carried over 5 committees that we're still working on to solidify some of the things for our contract. I'm bringing 4 memorandums of understanding before you today. The first one is WCEA supplemental MOU. Our supplemental contracts haven't been adjusted for probably over half a decade at this point. So we needed to make sure that we were in line with ECC schools and have a more balanced supplemental contracts across categories. So this MOU does that. The next MOU is for WCEA Plan Time MOU. This MOU allows for collaboration between administrators and teachers when planning yearly professional development and how plan time is used at each building level. The third MOU is the WCEA Labor Relations. So this MOU evolves how the teachers, staff, and administrators work together. It kind of moves us away from us versus them model to really all of us versus the issue or versus the concern. So we're excited about where we landed on that. And then the fourth MOU brought to you today is the Hope Compensation MOU, and this just right-sized the rest of the classified subgroups so that they're all in line with comparable districts. The fifth committee is the professional pathways and credentialing. That MOU is not brought before you today. We agreed with Hope to continue to work on that because we want to get it right before bringing it to the board. So that'll be brought at a later time. These MOUs are outcomes that represent all of the collaborative work, hard work that both sides put into resolving concerns or issues that continue to make West Clermont a desired place to live.
Mr. Foltz. Next, looks like we have an overnight field trip.
Yes, this evening we are seeking your recommendation for an overnight field trip for our girls basketball team. This is kind of a yearly camp that they've been involved with that's sponsored by the Ohio Dominican, like the school. And this trip would take place essentially one night, the overnight of June the 7th. And there are about 12 girls who will be attending with 4 adults, 4 coaches.
Thank you.
Item 7.07 is a request for approval of the minutes, and those are for the meeting that was held on April 22nd, was a regular business meeting. Item 7.08 is request for approval of minutes. That is for the May 6th regular meeting, which was a business meeting, a work session meeting, excuse me. Item 7.09 is request for approval of donations as presented. And I'll briefly read these. First is from the All Ingredients Donated Food for Withamsville Tabasco Elementary Staff Appreciation Luncheon. Progressive Insurance Foundation donated $450 to Amelia Elementary in honor of Andre and Grace for classroom supplies. Cece's Pizza donated 1,150 free kids buffet bookmarks and certificates to Withamsville Tabasco Elementary for Right to Read Week. Texas Roadhouse donated 100 free appetizer coupons and 12 Roadhouse rolls and butter to Withamsville Tabasco Elementary for Teacher Appreciation Week. Withamsville Tabasco PTO donated 550 books to Withamsville Tabasco for each student. And Withamsville Church of Christ donated hardcover books for the first grade Reading with Kids at Withamsville Tabasco Elementary. And finally, Frontline Impact Project donated 7,500 granola bars to the district for students and staff end of the year treat. So that we request for approval of those donations as listed in red. Item 7.10 is request for approval of purpose and budget statements for the 23-24 school year. I will not read those individually, but the list of those purpose and budget statements is close to the end of the year, is to help bring the request in line. Those are primarily for the school accounts, the Uniform School Supply Fund, and the Student Activity Funds, and the Principal Funds. Item 7.11, this is a request for authorization for transfer for FY24. The requests for those transfers are mainly intra-district fund transfers, in other words, from maybe a principal school account to another principal school account. This is the first of advances or transfers that are going to be requested. We do follow up with more in June prior to the end of the fiscal year. So the recommendation is to approve those transfers as presented. Item 7.12, request for authorization for investments of inactive funds. There were 6 different investment transactions that were executed in May. It's request to approve those. We did this strategy of laddering those investments out over the next 2 years in 3 to 6 month intervals. That is to capture and secure the current rate as we look and anticipate that the rates longer term will be as high or higher than what they are now and into the immediate future. So it is to secure those rates for the longer term. Item 7. So the request is to authorize those 6 investment transactions that are listed. Item 7.13 is the financial statements, bills paid, list, and investments. It's the recommended approval to approve those reports as listed. And so the request for the consent agenda is to approve items 7.01 through 7.13.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. You guys have heard the recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Chumley, thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Pat?
Yes.
5 yes. Thank you.
So again, to keep with our jumping around a little bit, we're going to jump now to public speaking. It does look like I have one, and that would be Mr. Ryle. Just to kind of read here while he's coming up, it does say that each meeting will recognize anyone who would like to speak at our meeting. Visitors who wish to address the board are asked to state their name, their address, and the school organization. Remarks must be addressed to the board and should be semi-brief, about 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Ryle, and for the last 5 years, I resided at 4350 Eichholz Road. Previously, I spent time at 5 East Main Street in Amelia, as well as the former Glen of Estee at 4342 Glen Estee Withensville Road. Almost 21 years ago, I received a phone call that would forever change the direction of my life, and honestly, that of my entire family. It was early June 2003, and one of my former elementary teachers called me out of the blue and asked me if I wanted a job. At the time, I was finishing my second year of teaching at a small school district in Brown County, and as the assistant principal at Glen Estee Middle School, she was looking to replace their recently retired choir teacher. Even as a much skinnier and, dare I say, handsomer, inexperienced teacher, my cockiness and arrogance almost got the best of me. When she asked me if I wanted to come and teach at Glen Estee Middle School, I distinctly remember saying to her, and I quote, "Well, I don't want to teach middle school full-time, and I certainly don't want to teach in a place like West Clermont. But I'll come in and talk to you and hear your sales pitch." And as the saying goes, the rest is history. Needless to say, the list is long of people that have positively impacted my life over the last 2+ decades. I'm conscious of my 3-minute time limit, but I hope that you'll indulge me as I give some people a delayed but much needed thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to those West Clermont Board of Education members that took a chance on me back in 2003. Jeff Burgess, John Gray, Barb Hartman, Joanne Beamer, and Cynthia Petrie. Without their belief in me, I wouldn't be standing here today. I also owe a huge debt of gratitude to all the board members since that time that have continued to support my work here, such as Linda Bloom, Doug Young, Dan Kruger, Denise Smith, Tammy Brinkman, Mark Merchant, Steve Waldman, Jim Lewis, John Banchus, Dave Schaff, and Michelle Delaney. As has often been said in countless administrative meetings over the last several years, leadership matters. And I'm thankful to all 4 superintendents that I've had the privilege to work under for their leadership, mentorship, and their dedication to leaving West Clermont better than they found it. Dr. Michael Ward, Dr. Gary Brooks, Dr. Keith Klein, and Natasha Adams. If you're ever wondering whose fault it really is that I'm here in West Clermont, you can blame Kevin Thacker, as he was my first principal here. I was also blessed to be under the direction of several other principals and assistant principals during my time here, including Brenda Slavey, Doug Alpiger, Debbie Hobbs, Dennis Ashworth, and John Spicer. And while I could spend the next hour listing all of the other people that have poured their wisdom and support into me, we all know that this board meeting is already going to be long, so I will attempt to wrap things up here. To my cabinet companions, thank you. The past 5 years have been an amazing ride, and there is no other group of people I would rather have worked alongside of. To my former teacher colleagues at Glen Estee Middle School, Glen Estee High School, and the West Clermont Institute of Performing Arts, the staff at Amelia Elementary, my fellow pals, the district leadership team, my colleagues here at the district office, and all the other people that I've had the opportunity to cross paths with during my time here. Thank you. Thank you for the countless times that you brought out the best in me and covered up for the times where I showed the worst. While I'm not able to name each one of you individually, please know that I hold you in my heart and will never forget all that you've done for me. In closing, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the board members sitting right here in front of me tonight. Mr. Patton, thank you not only for your leadership as board president now, but also for the times I asked Deputy Patton, the SRO, to come to Amelia Elementary to support a student, or me. Mr. Rudy, thank you for your passion for West Clermont that began even before my time here, and I'm confident will continue long after I'm gone. Ms. Sanborn, thank you for your hospitality, for always taking the time to shake my hand every single time I see you, and for always being so encouraging. Mrs. Spencer, thank you for your dedication to the district, your infectious smile, and for being willing to dive right into the work of being a board member. Mr. Trumley, thank you for your wisdom and steadfast support to the district, its students, and its staff. Your leadership, especially during the pandemic, has allowed West Clermont to thrive. Like myself, West Clermont has come a long way since 2003. However, I truly believe that its best days are ahead. While it can sound cliche, I have seen with my own two eyes that West Clermont is a district on the rise. I can't wait to see where you go over the next 2+ decades. Just know that I'll be the one on the sideline cheering the loudest. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Jeffrey, I just want to say I do appreciate all that you've done for the district, okay? So thank you very much. So to keep with the agenda here, now we're back in order. And thank everybody for being patient as we maneuver around through that. So it looks like we're back to superintendent's business.
Okay, so I'm going to model for everyone a very fast-forward version of how to get through a plan quickly. And then we'll see if everyone can follow suit. Obviously, we have Jeffrey to thank for our brand, and look forward to taking our brand into the future with our new strategic theme. We believe the title is going to be Blazing New Trails, to represent everything and reflect what the parents shared from the CAC tonight. So, this is a draft. We will share it tonight. It'll be available for comment and feedback, and then we will bring it back to you to vote in June. This slide here is significant because it represents what we've been focused on since really January of 2021, when we were still kind of coming out of the pandemic, where we agreed as a school district we had these 5 significant challenges that we wanted to tackle, that you couldn't really just tackle one of them and go, problem by problem. You had to really look at how they all intersect and how they work together. We determined through our research that in order to affect those 5 challenges, we had to change the conditions of the school district. And those conditions were defined by our purpose and design categories of student learning, the modern workforce, learning environments, and family and community partnerships. I won't go through the process. You've seen these slides before, but just to remind you the heavy impact that everyone's voice has had on this process and the amount of people that have been involved. We go back to we are a learning organization, and that's what we strive to be in West Clermont. We have one fundamental belief and one key action, and to take us into the next, several years, till 2030, we're going to remain true to our vision, value, and mission. We're going to elevate what it means to have to graduate from West Clermont High School, just so that you truly have a competitive advantage in our world, through living this out in ways that we haven't even begun to touch. We will have these goals. They were mentioned tonight at CAC, but these are important. We want every student to graduate with meaningful employment or higher education opportunities. So this is much more than saying we get a diploma. This is, we have a diploma and we're ready for what's next, whatever what's next is. And it doesn't mean everybody has to have it all figured out, but they have to be a lifelong learner ready to go figure it out, and that's what we want to ensure. The goals are the P's there, pathways and performance. Each student has access to a rigorous curriculum and support system to develop strong foundational knowledge and skills that transfer. For the people, every student has access to a high-quality team of educators, family, and community partners. And for the place, every student has necessary resources and access to a safe, welcoming, modern learning environment. So you can see through those goals, those 4 conditions all woven together. Oh, Dan's magical.
You have to point that.
Oh, okay, that's amazing. So what you'll see in this document is that the first goal with that symbol there is written across the top, and then there are several components to it. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but we'll hit the highlights. We have started modernizing our curriculum. We will continue that. The area of focus next year would be our innovation curriculum. So that's going to involve discovery classes as well as the other specials in the elementary, electives in the middle school, and electives in the high school, and how they integrate with with the core material. As you can see, a theme tonight is integration and making sure that all of the learning is coming together. We're not learning in silos, in compartments, but we're blending it together more like real world learning goes. Authentic assessments are going to be important. How do we show that students have grown in their Portrait of a Graduate competencies, both the academic competencies as well as the durable skills. How can we show that progression so we know the difference between third grader versus 12th grader versus fifth grader? We're focusing on lesson design and making sure that in every single classroom, teachers are planning and designing for deeper learning. We'll focus on literacy across the curriculum and more than just reading and writing, speaking, and communicating. It's going to be modern literacies to include digital literacy as well as wrapping our brains understanding artificial intelligence and the ethical understanding of what we need to know and be able to do as we have this. It's been a part of our lives, but a part of our lives in ways we've never quite experienced. We want to continue to have multi-tiered systems of supports to make sure that all students are receiving the supports they need at the level of intensity and focus that they deserve. This one will specifically focus next year on increasing and ramping up mental health services inside of our building with our partners. You'd heard it mentioned tonight where gone are the days of report cards. Well, we're not going to go from one extreme to the next overnight, but what we do want to build out is a vision for how do students really share their learning journey? How do they monitor that? How do they share evidence with their families, with their future employees, with their colleges? What's that going to look like? And we want to transform that over time. We want to develop each student as a leader, and Tricia said it best at the end. She was saying, as we were planning all this stuff, we realized like the kids really need these skills to do the things we want them to do, and there's just some skills and some experiences they're missing. And Leader in Me fills that gap, and we'll be happy to introduce that across the system next school year. Professional learning for staff, we believe strongly, like if you expect staff to transform what they're doing, you can't just expect everybody to read a book and figure it out overnight. But this takes a lot of professional learning and devoted time and coaching and development. We want to provide that for them. Pathways for educators would be important. If we want to transform the learning for kids, and we can't sit back and ignore the learning for all the educators. So we want to make sure we have equivalent efforts to make pathways for educators, not just a one-size-fits-all. And although we've made some real growth in that area, we want to continue to take it further. Next generation workforce is really about understanding the shortage that we are facing as a nation and as we're feeling here in West Clermont, and building a model that's really sustainable. We know from, Dr. Fultz is going to reiterate this later about the amount of kids that are going into education. It's decreasing every year. And so how do we build a sustainable model that attracts the best of the best, and especially to be here in West Clermont? Continue to grow partnerships, focus on safety and well-being in an ongoing fashion. Build modern learning environments, starting with including our innovation hubs in every single school. A space that is, like Mr. Romano calls it, it's an attraction. It's something kids want to get to school and be in the space because it's an innovative space where they're focusing on literacy at the same time, innovation, deeper learning, STEM and STEAM kind of opportunity, and technology integration. A master facilities plan that will, we've been talking about every week of this school year, that will impact the lives of our students, and our hope is to be able to build a plan that also includes getting that middle school start time corrected and to at least start at 8 o'clock. So that's a long-term plan. And finally, ensuring that everything that we're planning has that financial plan to support it. That these are, obviously there are costs and investments that go with a plan such as this, and we won't go anywhere without making sure all those pieces are in place. And incorporating alternate sources of revenue, building partnerships, and maximizing every dollar that we receive from our taxpayers. So that's what this plan is all about. So our hope is that people over the next couple weeks could give us some feedback on that. We'll bring it back to you in final form with all the words just perfectly written and give it to you for adoption. So.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. How fast did I go? Can you beat that?
That's pretty good.
Okay, all right, Larry says it's good. I know, it's going to be challenging. We're going to hit the highlights and make sure that you guys get in there and see these reports. Who are we up next? We're going to do the English Language Arts course of study. We have some amazing teachers that have been a part of the process along the way, as well as administrators. And with everything in West Clermont, it's a process. And
Yeah, of course. Thanks a lot, Dan.
there's something magical happening here. We are just so grateful for the time beyond your workday to make this process happen and to really transform English language arts in our schools. So thanks for being here.
Well, I'm just going to do a little intro and then pass it off to our esteemed colleagues here. But I just wanted to introduce each of them and set the stage before we get going tonight. Hopefully we can beat Natasha's time. So this is Courtney Wallace and Joe Stahl to my right and left. They're district literacy coaches that support our elementary schools. Dr. Amy Storer, which you know, and then Erin Parker. Erin was a principal who was attended every meeting, who really highly values this work and was an integral part of our team. So we're grateful for her leadership as well. So tonight, we're not asking for you to approve anything this evening. It's a first read of our course of study. You'll notice two documents. One was just a copy of our slides, and then the other is our actual course of study, a draft of our document. So again, no voting tonight, but we want to provide you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about our process and all of what we're really excited for what's to come in future years.
Okay, yeah, so I'll start us off. So the first slide is just kind of a summary of our course of study process. This has been a year-long process, probably longer than a year process. And it's been exciting because it's been PK to 12. So it's really been a vertical process. We spent the first several months just kind of learning together and calibrating and making sure we were all working from the same foundation before we even started looking at any type of resources. And all of that work, we tried to make sure, we made sure it was aligned with Ohio's plan to raise literacy and Read Ohio, which includes professional development requirements for teachers, but also there is a state list of approved curriculum resources that we had to look at and choose from. But a lot of our time was just spent making sure that we were all, like I said, calibrated, working from the same place, so that we had a really solid foundation, so that when we did move into looking at resources, we all knew what we were looking for. We had several rubrics that we used, and we really had a clear vision of what we wanted for an ELA resource. And then in the document that you guys have, the course of study table of contents includes the vision and instructional commitments, as well as kind of a summary of current literacy research and best practices, as well as an explanation of an assessment system, all the different types of assessments that we're hoping to include, as well as English language arts standards, and then the materials selection.
So within all of that, after our learning process and diving into our own professional learning across pre-K-12, we landed on this vision statement of all students will acquire the knowledge and skills to become readers, writers, and communicators who think critically and are prepared to contribute to a global community. So with all that learning, that's what we nailed it down to, is what we wanted the vision to the outcome to be. And then within that, we created our commitments as we looked at resources, as we used rubrics to develop, or used various rubrics to evaluate the resources. We also came back to our commitments, because not only did we want the rubrics to meet the resource need, we wanted our commitments, which we also wanted to align with the portrait of a graduate and the district's mission and vision as well. So as you can see, there are the commitments. And then at the end of all this, we didn't even start looking at resources until probably February, March, once the list was released by the Ohio Department of Education Workforce. And remember my W. So as we looked at that, we kept going back and forth between the commitments, rubrics, to land on the resource that we're bringing within the document, which is at the K-5 level. It is Benchmark Advance, and the publisher is Benchmark Education. And then the 6-8 and 9-12 is Common Lit. And one of the remarkable things with all the use of the rubrics and everything, and us all being in various spots within our learning, we were able to have almost a unanimous decision. Which is almost, it wasn't unanimous.
Yeah, right.
Elementary, for sure. I was not part of the 6-12 team, but the elementary, with us all coming together, was pretty remarkable that the process landed all of us choosing the exact same one, and that's where we are.
So do you have, I will note that if anyone is interested in reviewing any instructional materials, just reach out, and we're happy to, we have those available if anyone would like to to do that, or if you have questions about, anything in our draft course of study. I will say to you that you don't see the standards currently listed. We are working on, that is quite the task, being able to translate Ohio's documents and how they organize and outline things into our own. And so that will be part of, there's nothing different about the standards beyond Ohio, what the standards are, but formatting them and creating those in a user-friendly fashion is no small task. So, so those will be available for you in our final document.
A teacher today told me that it was sort of part of the attraction to the resource was the alignment to the Portrait of a Graduate, that it was just so clear that it would actually be carrying out those competencies, as well as the foundational phonics curriculum that you guys have already started, that it builds on it. So people felt like it was a win from that point. It wasn't throughout this and then something new, but something to build on and enrich what you've already started.
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that is that you emphasized the word integration today. That is also the case in our resources. They're very intentional in building a scope and sequence that not only aligns within a grade level, but aligns between grade levels. And so from a knowledge building standpoint and from an eye to integration, it couldn't have been a better time for us to be moving in that direction and to have a resource that really helps to support that. And so we're also really excited about that.
Did you guys want to add anything?
No, I love that you mentioned the integration part, because I think that has been a game changer of what teachers can think of. Like the first unit is life science, I believe. So how could we connect with the science teacher and what we're reading in our ELA classroom? Just everything they're doing throughout the day now seems so intertwined. And again, back to all the things that have been presented this evening. It's just this perfect little fit to what great things are already happening and plans we have.
And it has built-in opportunities for that project-based learning that the CAC was mentioning. So that's part of the curriculum. And then lots of opportunities for additional research for the kids to engage in.
I just want to add that I'm so proud of this team. It was really nice to see people come together, not with their ideas at first, and coming through and saying, this is what I want, but coming to the table as learners. And as educators, we are learners all the time, but we did a lot of learning together. We did a lot of reading and researching and going back to classrooms, observing in classrooms. We had teachers trial out different curriculum units, and there was just so much. Our principals got involved in walkthroughs to see some of that. It was just so proud of everybody for taking this so seriously and being so intentional about putting that recommendation for a resource forward. So.
And I will say, just as a final statement, that that this really is a springboard. Anytime you get to this place, it really isn't the end and okay, great, everything that we ever needed to do with ELA is done, check, and we're gonna move on to the next thing. But it really it really is now just the beginning in many ways. But we're really confident that that this work has laid a really strong foundation that's going to take us not only to the next level in terms of really, if you noticed in our strategic plan, modern literacies, that's really at the heart of our work, is not only ensuring strong foundational knowledge and skills for students, but that they develop the skill sets and the mindsets to help prepare them to be successful in a global community, which means being really smart about digital citizenship, around the use of artificial intelligence. All of those things are also really important parts of the work that we've done. And so it really is something that we're excited about what's to come, but we're just now getting started. So more to come.
I just have a question. Does this also incorporate, I know we're having a lot of different languages come into our district. Does this encourage, does it have some kind of?
There is, and that was actually one of the areas that Courtney and Joe both mentioned, kind of different rubrics that we looked at, and supports for diverse learners. So whether it's English learners, students with disabilities, gifted, learners, we really wanted to make sure that our resource would meet all of those student needs. That's a great question.
I also want to add, we had at both the elementary elementary level and the secondary level, one of our TESOL teachers participate on the team to help support making that decision.
It really was like somebody from every grade level, reading specialists, intervention specialists,
School
yeah,
psychologists.
teachers, psychologists, principals, so it was like somebody from every facet, yeah.
Well done, this is very exciting. All right, David, can you beat that?
I will try.
Next.
Okay, take a big breath. Okay, so as soon as Dan gets it going.
Okay, all right.
Well, every year about this time, David is preparing the classrooms for the future, the staffing model, as well as, he's just balancing a lot of things. Open enrollment, filling the building, so take it away.
All right, so first slide here, if you look up, is national teacher graduation trend data. Natasha had alluded to that earlier. We're seeing a 20.5% reduction from 15 and 16. If you look at the bottom there, the most recent is the 2021 school year, and that was when we were heavily into the pandemic. So I'm anxious to see what happens in the next year and the next year. But it is down 20% since 15, 16. We break that down further by. And it fall on.
Is it on?
Is it, yeah, it changed first. It changed initially for me.
Did you need to wiggle it back in there?
Wiggle the plug back in there.
Still broke.
It changed. Oh, there we go. All right, so now we broke it down by state. Red is Ohio, and purple is Kentucky, and the blue is the average of both. So what we're seeing is that we pull a lot of teachers from Kentucky, so I'm including them in this data as well. So at a state level, that decrease from 15, 16 is at about 30%. And then, let me see if I can, oh, was that you or me? Was that me? Okay, so then I pulled our feeder schools, our 7 or 8 feeder schools that we choose, and our local schools where we pull most of our teachers from is about down 37%. So we almost double the national trend. So this is something that we're keeping a close eye on as we continue to look at recruiting and going out and finding schools that we can pull the universities that we can recruit their students from. So how do we find them and keep them? If you look at the data table graph chart we have here, 2021 is blue, 22-23 is red, and 23-24 is green. Keep in mind that 23-24 is as of May 17th. So keep that in mind as you're looking at it compared to the rest of the years. Retirement and left the profession has grown tremendously, and that doesn't surprise us because we have some retirement data going. I'm going to show you that in another slide or two. And that 45.9% is about half and half retired, half leaving the profession. Family and personal needs, they're not leaving for that as much. Not a good fit for them or us. One of the things I want to point out there is you heard from the CAC and you heard from the group here where we're going. And sometimes people, that's our expectations are high. And sometimes people see that and that's not what they want and they move on. So that's okay that we have that. And then salary and better salary and position is a lot lower right now. So I feel like we're in a sweet spot with salaries. So that also is positive. 15% of our staff turned over in 21-22, 12 and 22-23, and as of right now, we're at 6.9%. So I hope to keep that turnover low because it's harder to find them. One of the things we've done, just to recap quickly, during the 22-23 school year, we had 14 positions unfilled by permanent teachers, and during this school year, we had 12 positions unfilled by permanent teachers. That seems to be a trend, so we're keeping an eye on that. Give you an idea of where the unfilleds are. We have 41 that have turned over or unfilled from previous years and 16 that are new. So as of the last Friday of those 57 positions, we've got 41 filled already. So we're doing a really good job of just going at them early and hard and getting those positions filled. The breakdown of elementary, middle, and high is about average. You see middle and high combined is a little bit more than elementary every time. So that's good. It's right where our trend usually sets. 13% of our teachers will be eligible for retirement in the next 5 years, and 28% of our teachers will be eligible for retirement in the next 10 years. So we need those numbers to trend. We need to keep people on board and knowing that people are reaching retirement in the next 5 to 10 years. So what are some things we're doing? It's culture and engagement. We gave our Gallup, we gave it in November, and we gave it again in April. We usually give it in February. We waited a couple months. But what we're finding out is that we have more engaged employees. So our engagement is going up. We're certainly outpacing the national average for the teaching profession is 30% engaged, and we're up to 52% engaged, so we're doing really well. There's a couple slides in here that just point out different questions, but the concept here is that there's a high engagement of our employees. So we're real excited about that, and we'll continue to work on that and develop that as the years go on. Some of the things that we're doing, this year we had a new teacher academy where the principals met with the new teachers monthly. They focused on the portrait of an educator competencies, and really that dive was who are we and why we behave the way we do. We had 40 of our resident teachers graduate to their professional teaching license, so we're real excited about that. Our new leader academy, the same way, we focused on portrait of a leader, diving deep into who we are and how we lead. So we had 5 assistant principals and 7 deans participate in that. It went really well, great feedback by all groups. One of the things we started doing this year was portrait of action celebrations. So staff, our district leadership team would recognize staff that are engaged in activities reflective of those competencies of portrait of an educator, and then we would, as cabinet, would look at our leaders and exhibit those months' competencies of what we'd say in a portrait of a leader. If you look at the graph on the screen, in December we focused on relationships, and then each month it talks about what we focus on under portrait of an educator, portrait of a leader. We're excited we were able to recognize over 116 staff members and over 30 district leadership team members for going above and beyond and demonstrating what we want them to demonstrate as portrait of an educator, portrait of those competencies. All right, enrollment. I'm pacing it. Okay. So new kindergarten age requirement, that changed. We moved from turning 5 from September 30 to August 1st. Why did we do this? The research shows this is a good move for us. By having students start kindergarten a little older, there's a measurable advantage compared to younger classmates. Higher test scores, more likely to attend college, less likely to spend time in the juvenile justice system. This aligns to other districts around us, that August 1 start. And so with that in mind, if you look at the table, I put on remember September 15th is where we plant the flag and we do all the measurements of growth. On September 15th versus the predicted for that year shows how close the percentage was to predicted to actual. The predictive tool we have has been spot on for kindergarten over the last 6 years. So we're real excited about the tool we use. We're excited about that we've been kind of connected with that. As of Friday, we have 409 elementary or kindergarten students enrolled for next year. That's 61% of the prediction. Last year at this time, we had 527. That's 75%. So we're a little lower. We're about 15% lower than we were this time last year. However, had we changed the enrollment age last year, 87 of our kids would have been too young to be enrolled this year. So if we were to take 87 off that 669, that puts our average about 71, 72%. So we're really close to where we were in previous years. We expect a little hiccup. That's what we're anticipating, but it'll be good to see how that actually vets out. We've pushed it out on district websites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, principals information home, the scrolling signs in the schools. You're going to start to see this sign pop up in some yards and corners. This is our Future Wolves. Don't forget to register. Don't forget to enroll your kids. So we're excited. We're trying to get every medium out there as we can get people to enroll and to see how many more we can get in. All right, just as a reminder, this is our 5-year forecast. Under the 23-24 current, that's as of September 15th. We're still projected to go 500. This will update in October. Our projection tool will give us a new update. And so I'll be able to come back in the late fall, early winter and talk about what the new prediction looks like. Ultimately, we're continuing to deal with overcrowded and outdated facilities. We're increasing class sizes to accommodate for that lack of workforce and space. We're always thinking of how we can do school differently to help support the situations that we're in. And all this information creates this urgency to have more creative solutions and how we're going to retain our staff. Sorry. 3 breaths, but I got through it. Any questions?
You didn't listen to direction very well.
I went fast.
You did good. You did
Very good.
You did great.
Wonderful.
Are there questions?
So do you have those signs? Because I could put one in my yard.
Yes.
We have them actually downstairs, we could give them to you.
The one thing I was saying to the staff that I was meeting with today is that it's looking like to deal with the increased enrollment, it means art, music, PE kinds of classes moving around, rolling around. Some rooms that might be used for diverse learner populations right now might need to be moved for a regular class so that needs 25 to 30 kids in it. And And so those will be the mitigating things we have to do before you have to get to modulars and other kinds of mitigating factors. And so it'll probably feel tighter and tighter over the next at least year until we can get the longer term plan figured out. And speaking of the longer term plan.
Dan, you got me ready? All right. So I'm very competitive. So as you guys know, our enrollment's going up, as he just said. We're running out of space in our buildings, and we have some outdated buildings, and we have a challenge with preschool. Any questions? Did I win?
You win, you win.
All right, so I gave this to you this weekend. I'm not going to go through each one, but I think what we have to do is, first we went through, well, let me take a year back. Remember, we went through building usage. And if you remember the charts with all the red ink on it and all the different things as far as operational costs and all the things that we have to do. And we clearly identified the buildings that are costing the district more than others. And that has been identified in our master facility plan as well, and you'll see some more ideas about that. But basically what I really want you to get out of this, I put in the capital project for the summer, but also kind of look at the square footage in the buildings, what OFCC says. Now OFCC gives you that capacity number. The capacity number is built off of square footage, not programs. And I think that's something really critical as you look in here and you start to see, well, of the 37 classrooms in Amelia, we're using only 29 of them for general ed because of what we have to do with other specialized programs and for using space for other things that we have. And we did that for every building, so you can kind of take a look at it as we go through the master facility plan and we start to look at this and you say, well, we're not at capacity. Well, when you look at it, we are at capacity because of the programs that we have. And so we did a deep dive into this. So I put together on the number of classrooms for general ed, number of classrooms that we're using for other things like gifted, discovery, and other classes that we have throughout the day. And then also our special education classrooms that we utilize. You'll see that their average class sizes can maybe be anywhere from 7 to 12, which obviously takes up more square footage, which means that takes away from your capacity. And then also for preschool. And so every building we have this, and so you can kind of take a look at it and it'll give you an idea of, okay, why are we out of space? This is the reason we're out of space. And as we start to go through the master facility plan, just want to continually highlight as we look at all the work that the CAC did, and I want to tell you, that is amazing work. Being a former principal, from where we started, and just a shout out to Ellie and her group, we've gone so far that we want to create the modern learning environment. We want to create the spaces. We want it to be innovative, and we want to be able to reach the goals that the CAC just talked about. And it's a long process. I mean, it's 7 years into this, and when we started, we were trying to get lunch, and now we've got all these programs that we were able to put in, thanks to Ellie, thanks to the board, thanks to Natasha, and thanks for this whole cabinet putting these things in. And now our kids are getting experiences. We want to continue those experiences as we go down the road and start to look at the facilities plan for the next 10 years, 20 years. You know, this is something that is going to be with us for a long time. So I'm not going to go through each one, but Clough Pike, we just had renovations on that, and again, we're out of space. The number you're going to see on there, we're still working with OFCC how they came up with 398 as a capacity. I promise you we don't have 150 kids standing outside, okay? But that's something I think that may have something wrong. But this goes through each one. When you want to highlight the areas that Holly Hill, and then when you also look at Willowville, and then you're also going to be looking at Summerside for 24-25, you're going to see the number of classrooms that we're pulling out for preschool, the percentages that we're using for preschool, which then brings you the challenges of what are we going to do with preschool if we're taking the classrooms away from the general education and our other specialized programs. And it goes through each one of them, as well as the high school. And so basically, what do we know? Cost for maintaining aging buildings has increased every year, and it's going to continue to rise. your boiler away, your HVAC away, your windows away, your all the different things, asphalt away from some major costs that we'll have to continue with those older buildings. Preschool's made a tremendous impact on our two of our elementaries so far. It's now going into your third elementary with adding 2 more classrooms to Summerside next year. That is a challenge for us as a district as we look at preschool. Special education programs continue to increase, continue to need more square footage, which means we have to build for that as well. And we have to factor that in with our capacity of our buildings, is why we're at capacity or near capacity in all the buildings. We need to address, and this is something that we want to continue to say, every address deserves a modern learning environment, and the inequity amongst the district is there. We're not hiding from that. We're being transparent. Transparent is a word that comes out in all the things that we talk about, and we know that that's not happening. And so we have to identify that, and we have to come up with a solution or a strategy as we move forward. Future-focused mindset, again, goes back to what CAC was talking about tonight. To see those programs, to see those pathways, and to see our kids get involved in those programs that weren't there 7 years ago but are today, when going walking across the stage, not only with a piece of paper, but also the skill set to do with the next, is probably the most important thing that we can do. And I think that's really, really important for us. CAT, just to highlight a few things that came out of CAT so far. Neighborhood schools are very important. I don't think that'll shock anybody to our community. They want to keep our elementary schools down, not go over 600. Again, that equal access, that equal inequity across the board to make sure every address gets the same opportunity. Middle school is always going to be right there at the top, is one of the things that we're going to look at and we'll be bringing to you as well, and looking at the configuration that we'll do there. And then the challenges of preschool. We know that that is continually going to put some strain on the buildings that we currently have. See, our CAT processes we're continuing. Our next one will be in June. As Natasha said, we're going to get a survey out this week. We wanted to get this out so we have the data going into our next CAT on June 6th. This is a communication plan. I'm not going to go through this. We've already altered this, already added more, and we already moved things up. So in case you didn't know, our communication plan is written in pencil. That's what I got.
Questions, board, or about facilities and where we are with our process? I think what we're gonna find is we're hitting June and July, things change a lot, but our work is gonna continue to move.
Yep.
We're gonna open school in August, and we're bringing a plan to you by September. The CAT will come in September, and so that will feel very, very quick, I think. But this process is moving, so it's a lot to take in. Thank you, Randy.
You bet. Did I win?
You won. Randy won.
Makes you feel better.
I think I've had enough comments today. Any questions for me? Good. Oh, Michael might have one. No, he's looking.
I want you to nudge Dan to see if he can try and win.
Let's see if Dan can be like us.
Yeah, Dan, try to win.
Dan can be like us.
DraftKings is
We were
under
trying
30
to,
right now.
good, so that Dan can have the show that he deserves, the show that's so important, so.
I've been waiting for a dance. I'm wide awake.
It'd be longer to get rid of these presentations. There we go. We're back to that. Okay. We are up to. There we go. Okay, item 9.01 is the resolution authorizing an amendment to the TIF or the tax incentive agreement and cooperative agreement for the Glen Estee TIF exemption. As mentioned earlier, this action item is really to amend the existing TIF. It allows for us to create through this TIF or to modify the compensation agreement, to execute a cooperative agreement so that the district will receive as close as possible to be made whole, okay, so that the development can start on this site. If the development starts on this site, and as the building progresses through, the district starts to get revenue, okay? We're appreciative of the fact that the township has worked through this economic development effort to get some things rolling on this site, so we could get funding to the district. We're also appreciative to the fact that by amending this, they're also extending the term of that, or an additional 30 years. They're also making provisions to, because some original projections back 8 years ago were not met. We didn't receive some of the TIF revenue that we believed would happen through the cooperative agreement. The township is making a commitment to, in essence, make us whole on that money that didn't come in by adding it to the back end of that agreement. So it is the recommendation to request for approval of the resolution authorizing an amendment to the tax incentive agreement and cooperative agreement to the Glen Estee East TIF exemption.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion? So moved. Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second. Either one.
Tammy.
Ms. Spencer, yes. Thank you.
Spencer.
Is there any discussion on that? I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
5 yes, thank you. We'll make sure those documents are executed for the township. Item 9.02 is the 5-year forecast, and apparently I have a brief presentation. Not that I was recording Mr. Gephardt's 9 minutes on his presentation.
You beat that, Dan.
To do that. And I'd also like to let him know that my job is for the jokes, not yours, but we'll pass on that one too. So I'll let that go to do that. So the May 5-year forecast, and I'll have that group over there remind me that when we're done with the presentation, we have to take action on the thing too. Okay with it. So with this 5-year forecast, the May is actually an update of the November forecast. Okay, if you recall, back in November, when we gave that forecast, we were uncertain of what was really going to happen with property tax, the valuation for 23 into 24. At that time, I'll even go back a year. In May, we estimated 15% increase. In November, we estimated 23% increase. And as you look at the increase that actually happened, it was even greater than that. It was on the north side of 30. Total residential was about 39, and commercial, industrial, and agricultural were kind of flat with this. Okay, but the May forecast is an update, so we go forward with it. I don't need to really give you the requirements, but really the purpose of the 5-year forecast is to be a management tool. It really is the authority as you see contracts come through, for example, all the MOUs that Dr. Foltz submitted this evening. You know, we can't sign those agreements or those MOUs unless we know we have enough dollars into the future to fund those things, okay? So that's an important part of it. The other major part of it is for the Auditor of State and the Department of Education and Workforce really reviews this document to let us know how, you know, whether or not we are moving towards fiscal distress, okay? And they look 1, 2, 3 years out for that to do that, okay? Before we kind of get into the numbers, just, you know, understand a couple things. It's a forecast, and so it's really painting a picture of the future. I will tell you that with this district, I feel good because prior districts, it used to just be the team in the treasurer's office putting things together. But when you look at the expense side of things, and we'll talk about a 2030 plan in a couple minutes, and when I've talked to some of my peers, they probably wanted to do a check on me as to whether or not that was wise to do. But my comfort level in moving from a forecast like this to a 2030 plan is because of the people you see in front of you here. It's not something that I put together in isolation, but it's something that's put in together with the team. And as everyone was doing their budget this year, as they did in the past, they just didn't have their eye on 24, 25. They had their eye on, when we take a look at what Mrs. Preston did with the curriculum budget and the curriculum cycle. She has it planned out into the future. She knows what those limitations are. She sees what it is. She knows how to balance what was spent beginning with the math curriculum and how much in future years that's going to cost. So this is not done in isolation. It's done with a whole team that's put together with it. There are the numbers, okay, but probably the most important part with that is the notes that support those numbers, okay? That really tell how we got there with it, okay? I was going to say this for my comments, but when you think of this meeting, it's a pretty pinnacle moment. You've heard about staff, you heard about the curriculum, the program, you heard about the support for that curriculum, which is our core business, right, what goes on. You heard from the community in that CAC, and everybody was doing what? Looking forward, okay? Where we are today, where we want to be, and kind of how we're going to get there. So that is there. We need to recognize the community, what they've done, what we need them to look at and do. We need to recognize the staff. Dr. Fultz talked about the MOUs. This district already settled the agreement for 25 and 26. We did that last fall. You can go around the state, and there are out of 600 some districts, no one did that. Okay, that's built into these projections, all the work that was done there. Okay, and so all of this is guided by the superintendent, and it's guided by your aspirations that you sent out. That's in this forecast, okay? It's built into there. All right. Just highlights with it, okay? As you look back historically, we don't show 2020, but if we did, you'll see a big jump from 2020 to 2021 in the revenue because of that levy that passed. You will see that there were two in this forecast, two updates evaluation, one in 2020, one in 2023, that because we are at the 20 mil floor, and the 20 mil floor allows this district to get additional revenue, okay, as valuation grows. We don't hide that fact. It is part of the rules of the game for school finance that we are under, okay? I know it may be sometimes surprising to the community as they get their property bills, but we don't hide the fact that we are at that floor. Back in 1977, the state basically said, hey, at least 2%, 20 mils needs to be collected from property tax. That's what that's really to do that. Unfortunately, what's happening and you'll see this in the numbers, okay? What's happening with this financial revenue formula that we're under, this year in 2024, we went onto the formula for 1 year. What that meant is there was this calculation that was done, there were some inputs that were calculated, and we went onto a formula that says, hey, take the number of students times X dollar, back off some things, and we'll give you more funding than we did in the past. 1 year. Next year, we go back on a guarantee, which gives us a dollar amount back to 2000, what they say is 21, but is really 2019. So in 2025, we'll be receiving revenue from the state that's limited to what we got in 2019.
One, for us, 2019 was before the levy, so that was
Before the
even
levy,
reflective of dollar amounts well before that.
Yeah,
So.
and what does that do to us? When you think about that, what happens? We have a growing local tax base, okay, growing local taxes. We have state revenue that went up a tick, but then went right back down. It is, in essence, and I say this to people, and I say this to my peers, and then they finally get it. What that really means is any increase in our budget, whether it's inflation, whether it is because of enrollment growth, because of whatever, that increase falls back on our local taxpayers. We've got to look at that, okay? We've got to do something about that in it.
Well, and when you say we, you mean we got to keep advocating.
We have to advocate.
Because it's not like we are making that choice.
Correct. We're not making that choice. We've got to advocate to the state that said that has to change, okay, with it. There are numerous districts that we're kind of like I don't want to say we're unfortunately leaders in it, but that's happening around the state. We're not the only ones, okay? This year, 24, is the end of our spending of the COVID relief dollars. The 14 million, we made plans on that back 3 years ago. District leadership did a good job of planning and allocating that money as an investment, not just an expense, okay? The district made a good job of looking at how can the things that we invested in live longer than 24. We built that into these projections, and we covered for that, okay? So we did not fall off the cliff, okay? We're going forward with that. All right, to do that. As you look at the spending, surplus or deficit throughout those years, okay, and you'll see in one of the charts, is that revenue goes in a stair-step fashion. This year, we're getting an increase because of the valuation increase, okay, but then it flat lines out for the next 3 years until the next valuation increase. Our state revenue is flat, okay. Expenses, though, kind of take a graduated curve up. Our dilemma is when you look at the average increases of the revenue and the average increases of the expenses do outpace those revenues, okay? Which means somewhere up the road between now and within that 5-year forecast, we may be coming back, okay? For more local funding to do that. So what I'm just really trying to show with this chart, total expenses, total revenue, total expenses, is that the blue line is our revenue, the red line is our expenses. The red line kind of dipped down. There's a little misnomer there on the revenue expenses. We had a note issuance in fiscal year 21 for $11 million. If I back that off, you'll see more clearly the stair step on the revenue. You'll see a more straight line on the expenses with it. When the red line crosses the blue line, that is when we're spending more than we're receiving. That means that the cash that has built up in 25 and 26 starts to go down, okay? That is a normal progression within school funding, okay? Build cash up because of some either valuation or increase from a millage or state funding, and then after it's built up, it reduces back down. The bracket that I show that's kind of labeled by D, that is where our cash balance meets 30 to 60 days of cash on hand. That's where we want to be. That's the sweet spot for us. You'll see that in 27, it starts to decline down, okay? And we need to look at doing something there. Just another example of showing that. General fund revenues for this year, this is where, we see the big breakdown, the two boxes to look at. 36.3% from the state, 63.7% from local sources, okay? That's our share for state and local as we go forward. Uncertainties, challenges with the revenues, okay? The fair school funding formula, one thing that we have to look at, and I say that we've got to look at some things differently. Everything from the state is in that formula. Where it used to be a foundational base and the categorical programs for special needs, for English language learners, for gifted, for career tech, all those used to be outside of a formula. Well, they got wrapped into a formula, okay? We need to look at how we can break those out so that when those populations increase, we can increase revenue with it. Okay, that's not there yet. There is currently the Legislative Joint Committee on Property Tax Relief. Those hearings are going on now. We want to ensure that the 20 mil floor is left in place. We want to ensure that the reappraisal process stays intact the way it is. We want to promote that the current levy opportunities stay untouched. We do want to look at how does the legislature look at giving some targeted relief to people in the community, okay? Yeah, this unprecedented time of the valuation growth did hit a lot of people in our community, and if there's a way to get some relief, targeted relief, we believe that should be done too with it, okay? we did account for the enrollment growth over those 4 or 5 years. I think what limits us on the enrollment growth is capacity, okay? So even though enrollment grows, if we don't have any place to put an additional classroom of students, okay, then we can't add that staff to do it. So the facility issue becomes pretty important with it. On the expenditure side, you know, our wages and benefits is 73.7% of our budget. That's not uncommon. We're a people-intense organization, and it will be that way. It actually, when you compare it to the rest of the state, is a little bit low because we outsource transportation, and that's a pretty good cost. So if we were to add transportation in there, it would put us closer to between 78 and 80%, which pretty much everybody else in the state is at, okay? On the benefit level, you know, in our insurance committee that we have with the unions, one of the things we talk about is the growth or the increase in healthcare costs. And what we're seeing now is when we look at our numbers, our healthcare cost portion kind of flatlined, which is good. Unfortunately, the prescription drug portion, okay, is increasing. And that's due to the new types of drugs that are out there. That is due to some of the shock claims that we have, where the new treatments are just more costly than the old. You know, but you know, those are some things that we really can't deny because it really talks about you know, a quality of life and quite frankly, with some people, keeping them alive. Okay, so when we look at our benefits, we really need to in the future look at what's going on with our prescription drug costs with it. The other thing you'll see in the expenditures is that when the new formula from the state started, students were paid for where they were educated. So in the past, where community schools, the charter schools, and some of where our students went to other choices, that money was run through us and then sent to them. That stopped back in '22. Okay, so those numbers our expenses will look like it went down in that category, but so did the revenue at that time. Okay. Challenges on the expense side. Just recognize that our negotiated agreements take us through FY26. We did look at, and you know, it's prudent to say, okay, we may need to do something. So there were increases built in there, but that's an uncertainty with it. We know that there are certain areas that are growing, and that is in special needs, that is in our College Credit Plus area, that is where students may be placed kind of beyond our control that we just have to pay for. Another big thing come out of there. Oh, one of the important things that we did, because of the valuation increase also impacted our permanent improvement fund. What we did in looking forward is we took capital, and we were not able to do this prior to 2020 because their permanent improvement fund was the inside millage was put there to pay for the debt of the high school. Because of that valuation increase, there are some additional funds that are in there. So as we look forward, we're moving our capital expenses out of the operating fund into the permanent improvement fund. Okay, so that really kind of helps things that last a little bit longer for it. Okay, to do that. Let me get to. One more slide. Isn't that going in?
Ending cash
I gotta touch that. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Okay. Kind of starting out the slide ending with the slide that I started with. If you want a summary story, okay, our revenues are stair-stepping mainly because of the valuation increase. Our expenses are on a steady curve, but they begin to outpace our revenues in about FY26 and FY26, which means that we've got to really look at what to do for 27 as we go forward, okay, to do that. Our ending balances are within that 30 to 60-day range, going through 26, but 27 is going to be a problem to do it. Again, the 2030 financial plan, which we are working on and will be presenting to the board, goes beyond the 5-year forecast. It really looks to going through 2030. That is important because past the emergency levy in 2020, it was only for 10 years. We know we have to come back in 2030 to sustain that revenue, okay? At some point in between there, we may have to come back for additional revenue sources to do it, okay? But as you look at this forecast, we are not, in the next 3 years, we are not approaching a fiscal distress moment. As we look beyond that, depending what happens in valuation increases or maybe the state funding, you know, we may have to do something, okay, to do that. Advocacy is really how do we, within the school district, the school district, really advocate for more state funding, okay? How do we advocate for, in the balance within the local revenue, ensure that the burden locally isn't just falling on homeowners, that as economic development takes place, commercial industrial grows, got to look at the agricultural property. Those two sets of properties are not growing as fast as the homeowners. That ends up shifting the burden locally, even on the homeowners more so. So we really got to look at that. We got to work with the townships and the county in that whole economic development area to do that. Part of what we're doing is taking this financial story, and we really need to tell the people in the community that story, okay? There were some things that are being done to our website. I may or may not show it depending on the 9-minute limit that I have.
You've broken that far.
Yes. The other big thing, because you hear certain districts that may be getting into financial trouble, and they're pointing back to the ESSER funds and this cliff, okay? It is because of what the leadership did 3 years ago in putting that plan together that cliff was avoided. It was knowing what to do with those funds and how to shift it from being an expense to an investment into this district, that really caused us not to fall off the cliff with it.
We were celebrating you today and your leadership in that at a staff meeting I was in, because it's like once you hear headlines around the area and around the state, around the nation about that, you realized how significant that we aren't doing that is. And so people were celebrating your efforts because it was a big risk, people thought back then, and they were worried about what might happen, so it was a celebration.
And I said it before to the group, but when you had union leadership looking at you and telling you, 3 years from now, we don't want to be cutting people that we hire, okay? And so, we take that all into stride. But I'd like to say that, it was some ingenuity on my part, but it was really the ingenuity on the people around this table that did that. So, with that, you have in front of you the May 24 5-year forecast. It's the request for item 9.02 is request for approval of the 5-year forecast, which also includes the notes to the forecast, and the requirement that be submitted to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. I'll actually put that out in the form of a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Chumley, is there any discussion? I think we're good.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
5 yes. Thank you.
Do you have the video?
I have the video.
I was saying do it.
Let's see, all right. Should we do it? Video right here. And I've got to move it over. And I don't know if is that audio going to come through? That's not, that's it. So there's a series of videos that were created with Mr. Riley.
I'm Dan Romano, treasurer of the West Clermont School District. You may have noticed we have really been focusing on engaging, listening, and responding to the community. We've received numerous questions about school finance. Because of that, we recently released a survey to the public to dig a little deeper on understanding what you want to learn more about. And we got some really great feedback. Based on that, we want to provide you with information you need when it comes to finances of West Clermont. So over the next few weeks, we'll be releasing a series of videos along with information that can be found on our website. Today, we want to talk about where our funds come from. The total revenues we received in our most recent completed fiscal year exceed $141.7 million. We are the largest of the 9 school districts in Clermont County with an enrollment of nearly 8,200 students in this school year. Last year, our enrollment placed us as the 24th largest of the 606 school districts in the state of Ohio. Our spending annually will vary depending on several factors, but for the most part, we focus on spending less than the amount of dollars we receive. There are 3 primary sources of revenue to school districts: local, state, and federal. Local sources, which are for the most part property taxes, but local sources also include other revenues, such as tuition for students placed in our schools, student fees, interest earnings, payments in lieu of taxes, and other miscellaneous revenues. The state also shares in funding schools. The amount will vary by school district depending on several factors. The federal government also supports schools, but those funds are always directed for a specific purpose, such as supporting the breakfast and lunch program, dollars for students with special needs, and dollars for other specialized services. I encourage you to visit our website to explore more resources on this topic. And as always, if there are additional questions or concerns, we are always ready to listen. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation on school finance with you. Thank you.
So there's a series of 9 videos to start out with, all about 3 minutes in length, kind of the AM radio, 3-minute limit to do that. I know, you don't know what AM is? Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, the third one will
That
come.
was a very, very long time ago, right? Okay.
The third one will come out this week, and then we'll maybe start again with them back in the fall, and we get everyone's attention again.
But yeah, so not only are the videos are there, but there's other enhancements to the website that really answer questions that were kind of gained from the community to do that. And I mean, it'll be iterative, they'll be ongoing, because just as you know, as you give one piece of information that answers a question, there's going to be 2 or 3 more questions that follow, right? People want to keep diving deeper and deeper. So it'll be kind of open, and I think the key of it is that we just be responsive to the community, the level of information and data that they need as they go look to make decisions within our community to do that. So, and it's also for their input too. I mean, it's not just them asking us questions, but them giving us some directions and input too as we go forward. So that's a lot of work that was done, in doing that, and appreciative for everybody to make some of this happen. Okay?
Good. Do you have any other comments?
What's that?
Do you have any other comments, or is?
I'll withhold those because I think I'm at my limit. Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along to board comments, I'll start with Mr. Chumley.
As much as I joke, I do really appreciate everything that you bring to the table. I knew when we initially interviewed you that you were going to kill it here, and you've done nothing but do that since day one. So I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who put so much hard work has come into everything that was presented tonight. It's almost unreal. And it's this week every year is the culmination of that. Just to see these students walk across the stage and Yeah, I hope we all get to enjoy that Friday. I hope I get to make it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Spencer?
Yeah, I appreciate all the work everyone does. I know it's a lot of extra time and energy, and Dan does really put it in perspective that helps me understand what we do and why we do it and where it all goes and that kind of stuff. So I know you work really hard. And Natasha too, I called her Saturday morning or something. I'm like, oh, this is awful. But everybody puts in extra time and I appreciate it. I enjoy being on the board, and I think the more people that get involved in like that, having the avenue out there that Dane can take questions and stuff, I think that helps too. People feel more involved if they feel like they can ask questions to people. And I think, and we're always willing to hear any questions that anybody has too, if anybody would like to have any questions, want to know how things are run or whatever. But I appreciate it. I think I'm excited for graduation too. I know West Clermont always does an outstanding job through graduation. It's just a wonderful celebration time, and I'm very excited for all the graduates.
Thank you. Sam?
I appreciate everything that was said and done tonight. It's just eye-opening of how we were way back when and how far we've come now. And it really goes to show that you're dedicated to this school district, that you love what you do, and that you enjoy doing what you do for the students and for this West Clermont community. I think that speaks volumes, and I'm hoping that the community will wrap their arms around this school district and to move this district forward in the motion that needs to go in. I also had the opportunity to go to the West Clermont High School. I've been on stage, I've been in the gym. I think I've been in every room almost at the West Clermont High School. I didn't know there were so many rooms. But I enjoyed my time going to the senior awards and all the other awards they had. And on behalf of the Board of Education, I really appreciate the opportunity that I had to go there to see all of this. I'm hoping that my colleagues will join me next year because it was phenomenal. The class presidents did a phenomenal job at presenting speeches to their classmates. They dressed for success. They walked the walk and they talked the talk. And I was like, wow, if I had a business, I would hire all of these people. And so I know that Superintendent Adams would have been there. She would have really enjoyed all of it because I was just blown away by everything. And I really appreciate it. And I thank you. And I thank you for your speech tonight, and I thank you for your concern for this district and for wanting to make it be better and better every day. And I really feel that we are on the rise and that we have to move forward. There's no looking back now. We have to do what we need to do to have whatever we need for the students and the staff for this district, this school district. Because we haven't had it in the past, I will say that, but I really feel that it's needed. And I hope that everyone will do their part and come to the town halls, come to other meetings, get involved, be involved. We want you to know what our school district is doing and how it is growing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rudy?
Yeah, it's too late, I'm not going to talk.
He's up for retirement.
Do what?
He's ready for retirement.
I'm ready for sleep.
I will keep mine brief as well. Again, as to kind of echo what they've already said, I appreciate everything that we've done, that you guys have done in these presentations. It's a lot of information that we're kind of cramming into one session, but it's a lot of good information to keep us moving in the direction. I will say thank you to both of you guys. I think it's truly a team effort that you guys work so closely together, keeping our district moving, and I truly appreciate what you guys continue to do. We're almost to the end stretch, people. We got this, okay? So again, thank you guys. So I think we've got everything covered. Do we have Mr. Chumley, do we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Chumley made the motion. Mr. Rudy, I assume there's no discussion. Roll call, please.
Who made the motion?
Mr. Chumley made the motion.
Okay.
Mr. Rudy seconded. There to be no discussion. I will say real quick, I apologize. June 24th is our next board meeting at 7 p.m. I do apologize, sorry.
And it's here.
We do joke a little bit, but in all seriousness, June 24th at 7 p.m. here at the Civic Center. We encourage everybody to show up, please. Mr. Romano.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
5 yes to adjourn.